Sick of getting blisters? Stop slipping and just be comfortable with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Great fit, great comfort, lots of grip, and an even better price. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
When it comes to popularity, I think most people would agree that the top two brands in football boots are Adidas and Nike, in whatever order you want to put them in. When it comes to the third place brand, however, I think most people would probably answer with Puma. But what if I told you that perhaps New Balance is actually the current third place brand? In other words, who makes better football boots, particularly when it comes to speed? From Puma, the Ultra Ultimate, a lightweight construction with a thin textile upper and a chevron bladed stud pattern, retailing for $220. And from New Balance, the Furon V7 Pro. It too features a lightweight construction, a thin textile based upper, and a bladed chevron stud pattern, where in a non-limited edition colorway, the boots retail for $215. So with only a $5 price difference between them, and both of these boots being at least $30 less expensive than the Nike or Adidas alternatives, the question now becomes which of these two is better, and perhaps even more importantly, are either of them anywhere near as good as the more popular speed boot options? Or perhaps an even more important question, is popularity a true indicator of performance? We're going to talk about exactly that as we compare these two boots in today's video, including how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, including which one I think might be the better option, stick around, watch the entire comparison. And if you are interested in either of these boots for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail prices by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the links down below. And as always, if you guys enjoy these comparison videos, drop a like on the video, let me know which boots you'd like to see me compare next, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. So starting off with the uppers, you have two options: Ultra Weave with a power print texture on the surface, or Hypo Knit, which is a much more simple take on a textile-based synthetic material. With the Ultras offering what I would argue is more of a synthetic feel to the upper, in that it has a little bit more crunchiness in terms of how it flexes. Not to say that it isn't super pliable, but it's definitely lacking in softness that you do get with the Furon alternative. The texturing on the surface is kind of concentrated mostly to the forefoot and toe box area, and in general doesn't really provide much in the way of additional grip that I would say is overly noticeable. But certainly if you're looking for the most raw feel on the ball in terms of them being as thin as possible, this definitely offers that more so than the Furons, where this Hypo Knit material is more of a sock-like knit in terms of having a little bit more pliability to it. It definitely feels softer against your foot, and in general just feels more sock-like if that's your thing. And at the end of the day, there's very much a personal preference aspect in regards to choosing between these two. A little bit of a structure element across the top of the foot because of the lacing system being pushed so drastically to the outside, but also from a touch perspective, because of this design element, you end up with such a clean surface in this area of the foot to make contact with the ball, which not only sets this apart from the Ultras, but basically apart from every other football boot, period. It's a very unique lacing setup, and because they nailed the shaping of this football boot, you end up with a touch experience that feels borderline like a pair of laceless boots, but with the adjustability and lockdown that you expect from a pair of boots with laces. Towards the rear, you'll find two very similar looking design concepts, where they're both low-cut football boots with a little bit of like elasticated knit material bordering the edges and a little bit of an extension piece at the back. What you'll also find on the Ultra Ultimate is their power tape material that does absolutely nothing. Basically what this is doing is covering up some seams on the upper, but if you really believe that this is going to help your performance, then I don't know, be my guest. You could probably do the same thing with some band-aids on any other football boots and it would have the same effect. Nonetheless, internally, I don't love how this football boot feels through the heel area. And keep in mind that your mileage may vary in regards to the specific shape of your foot and how comfortable this will be. But for me, this microfiber lining material, which I actually quite like, it's just not backed with a lot of extra padding. So I find that it's a little bit firmer at the heel than I would personally like. And in comparison to past Puma Ultra models, I just didn't find them to be as comfortable. Where you'll find on the Furon, it has, again, a very similar design concept, perhaps a little bit of a higher lip to this elasticated material along the edges, but still very much a low-cut football boot. Both have an internal heel structure. And then on the inside, again, you find a microfiber liner, a similar amount of padding, but the general shaping of the heel just seems to be better from a comfort and even a lockdown perspective. And then the insoles, this is actually quite a funny coincidence. You're gonna find this kind of soft silicone grippy texture on the surface of the New Balance insole, where if you remove the Puma one, they call it something different, nano grip, but it has pretty well the same texture. I would argue that the Puma one feels slightly better, but both pretty much do the exact same job in terms of preventing that little bit of slippage on the surface of the insole when your feet are in the boots. When it comes to sole plates and stud patterns, as you can see side by side, they are pretty darn similar in terms of layout and even the shaping of the studs. With the Pumas, you're gonna find more of a combination of what I would say is this chevron shaped stud, which is going to provide as much bite as possible, and then kind of a bladed stud with some more rounded edges. It's almost like a three-sided shape, similar to what you'll currently find on the Nike Mercurial series, with the chevron stud also being something that was more or less popularized by the Mercurial series as well, with a sole plate that I would say is relatively flexible, but still has that little bit of firmness to kind of snap back in the forefoot, which I know is something that a lot of people in the speed category are looking for, where the Furons, as you can see, feature those bladed studs all the way through the entire foot, making this more aggressive. You definitely have more freedom to twist and pivot with the Ultras, and the sole plate as a whole, I would say, has a nearly identical feel in terms of how it flexes and with its overall stiffness. So from a traction standpoint, if you want something a little bit more aggressive, go for the New Balance, whereas if you want something that has a little bit more freedom to twist when your foot is planted, you might prefer the stud pattern of the Ultras. Which brings us to the weight, where obviously both of these boots are light. You'd expect that, but one of them is actually the lightest speed boot currently on the market and doesn't necessarily get the credit for it because it's not the most popular. Both in the same size, 9.5 US. We'll start off with the Ultra Ultimate. You can see that they weigh in at 6.8 ounces, the equivalent of 192 grams, which is actually going to be very similar to something like an Adidas X Speed Portal 0.1, even a Plus model, where the Tequila V7 Pro weighs in at 6.45 ounces, the equivalent of 183 grams, making it, by just a couple grams to be fair, the lightest speed boot on the market, just edging out the Mercurial Vapor 15 Elite. Nonetheless, both of these boots are really light, but if you're looking for the lightest one currently available, it's the New Balance. So here they are on feet, where I think there are two main things that kind of stand out as differences between the New Balance and the Pumas. One being that the New Balance does feel softer against your foot. It's a more pliable upper. It has a little bit more of that sock-like feel, which is personally my preference, but if you prefer that slightly firmer, kind of raw synthetic sensation, you might actually prefer the Ultras. And then there's the fit through the heel, where I just find that there's a little bit of extra padding in the New Balance, and it seems to lock my heel in place just that little bit better, not to mention is also slightly more comfortable. From a width perspective, at least in the regular fit variation of the New Balance, they're actually pretty similar, and quite honestly, the regular fit version of the Furon is actually going to be best suited for the most foot types. It's only if you have that ridiculously wide foot that I would recommend going for the wide fit variation, so something to be aware of. But from a fit perspective, I think it's really impressive how both of these boots fit. I like the shape of the Ultras despite not loving the upper quite as much as past iterations, and honestly with the New Balance, I think it's really impressive how snug this upper wraps your foot given how off-center the lacing system is. Typically when you push the laces really far to the outside, the shape and wrap around your foot will typically suffer. Not the case with these whatsoever. Like I said, from a width perspective, they fit snug but will be suitable for most people, but you do of course get that wide fit option with the Furons. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing both of these boots in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you are looking to get either variation for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, despite Puma and New Balance not being in the top two most popular brands in the world of football boots, when it comes to the products they have on offer, at least in the speed category, both of them offer something that I would say is really solid, if not well above average. With that in mind, I do think one of these football boots is significantly better than the other, and not only if you're just looking to stray away from Nike or Adidas in terms of your boot selection, but also if you're just a little bit more value for money conscious in the speed boot category. I really think you'd be doing yourself a disservice by not going for the New Balance Furon V7 Pro. This is a football boot that is incredibly comfortable from a fit perspective. Not only does it fit great, but it gives you the option of regular and wide fit, which no other speed boot currently has on offer, and is something that is pretty much exclusive to the New Balance brand. Super underrated in that regard. They're very comfortable, they're sock-like, they're the lightest speed boots on the market, and also provide arguably some of the most aggressive traction currently available as well. When it comes to every objective performance characteristics, these stack up extremely well against just about anything, where the Ultra Ultimate, again, I think is a solid pair of football boots, especially for the money, but from a fit and comfort perspective, I just don't think they're anywhere near as good as the New Balance. Try them on before buying them. Definitely you might prefer the Ultras over the Furons depending on the shape of your feet, but for me personally, given the choice, New Balance all day long.